Whatever you do, do not touch these screws. It doesn't matter if you have that bit. They're security torques for a reason. Do not take them off. Once you do, you're going to be screwing around with voltage meter, and I'm not trying to get into that on this video. Okay, so we can't rebuild these carburetors without splitting them apart. Here is where the fuel comes in, and there's no o-ring here. This nipple is pressed in, but here there are o-rings on that transfer tube, and if you don't replace them now, they will definitely leak later. So to split them, first thing is to release the choke. At the end on this side, there's a little snap. When you pull this off, the spring underneath is going to jump away. Make sure you protect it with your finger. When I lightly grab the outside of the o-ring and turn the fitting, there should be enough resistance on the inside diameter of the o-ring contacting the outside diameter of the fitting. Just naturally, there should be enough friction to keep this o-ring from turning, and then to fit the inside to the outside. This looks like this 2 might be a little too thick. 2 seems to be too thick of a cross section. However, the inner diameter didn't have as much drag as I wanted, so instead of a 6, try a 5. It's still a 2 cross section, but the smaller inner diameter will force the o-ring to have to stretch and compensate, and that stretching will reduce its outside diameter. Start at the bottom. It'll make sure that if it's going to herniate, it's going to do it where I see it. And that fit pretty good. This is designed to have 2 o-rings, and we will get there. But with the 1 o-ring, try to move it back and forth. I'm feeling how much force it takes to move it this way and that way. And I'm feeling the fitting move inside of the o-ring, and then I'm feeling the o-rings and try to press against the outer diameter in the carburetor, and then finally it pulls, and that feels okay. It feels like the o-ring is definitely effecting a proper seal. The head of this screw was pretty stripped out. The bit's been used quite a bit. It's not like worn. So as I tried to loosen it, it would cam out. It tries to force itself away. To overcome that, you have to steady the backside of the carburetor, and you gotta really press forward really hard into the head of the screw, trying to prevent that force of backing off. And if you can overcome that force enough to break the torque that's keeping the screw on, then you can break it free without having to drill it. Sure seems like they're the exact same. Okay, now this is where you should be careful. If you grab this with too strong of pliers, you will deform it. It is only brass. It is not very strong. It's not made to do a whole lot, so if that O-ring down inside is super stuck, like this one is super not, no wonder this was leaking. It's like, that's not holding anything. Look, it has zero tension right there. Does that say 91.3? So I'm going to put a 7 ID by 1.5 cross section. Two 0 20. It might look okay, but I'm not gonna chase a vacuum leak on account of this thing leaking somehow in a really tiny way, so it's definitely going in the trash. I don't see a need to remove the heaters. I'm just gonna make sure they're tight. There's a hole in there that will get blocked and make it run like trash. Be very careful. These square drive air cutoff valves can often stick really hard down in there, and if they do, you just got to destroy the diaphragm to get it out. That's okay. Replace it. This one is okay. be careful. The stack up should be the donut at the bottom, the clip up top, above the clip the bushing which protects the spring and gives it a base to sit on, and then the cap keeps it all together. Right, so where's the mixture screw? We've looked all the way around. I see no screw for the mixture. Where could it be? It's probably lined up with this pipe going into that. But it comes up and there's a little brass plug right here. It's got a hole in it already. It's like, hey, drill me out. So I've got this fancy screw here. It's just the tip is sharp and it kind of cuts in. Ooh. We start it right here. 1 half turn, 2 half turn, 3 half turn, 4 half turn, 5 half turn, 6 half turn, 7 half turn, 7.5 half turns. 3.75 turns out. This taper, this little end bit, is extremely critical, and if your replacement doesn't match it perfectly, sometimes I've seen aftermarket ones slightly larger, and when you go to install it, that little tip wedges itself into the body of the carburetor, and that carburetor body is now ruined. So there must be a mixture screw, followed by a spring, and then a washer and the o-ring. And that stack up is so that the o-ring does the sealing, and then it has to be protected from the jagged edges of the spring. O-ring for the seal at the bottom, washer to protect the o-ring from the spring, and then the spring to provide tension for the screw, and the screw with the tip which does the metering inside the carburetor. And look inside there. Gross. The rest of the carburetors look clean, and yet there's all of that stuff in here. One half turn, 2, 3, 4. Almost 5. I have also seen in the past a second o-ring mistakenly left inside, so always look inside to make sure that there really is nothing left in there. 20. $91.3. Ooh, look at how gross it is in there. Gross, ew. Is there an O-ring in there?
Carburetor wasn't sure, but
I'm gonna work for you.
ooh, perfect Sunday. Let's load this one.
And now for my favorite part. This carb kit from whomever makes it, and we get to dissect each and every piece to see if we're actually going to use it or not. So we start with the float bowl gaskets. The new ones are 2 millimeters taller. Does that mean we can't use them though? I don't know. Let's have a look. This design fits all the way down to the shoulder and the venturi there, without stopping up early from the top. And the new one reaches the shoulder just the same, but it sticks up higher up here. Should I use the new ones? So I'm looking really close at this rubber, and it seems to be perfect, and there's no problem. But then I'm worried about the extra length of the new one, and I don't really trust the brand of the new one already, and it's different, so I don't want to use it. That's a double whammy. And then I'm like, if I don't have to replace it, then I'm not going to, but then I found this. So that's a vacuum leak, so that's bad. This diaphragm is no good. You can't change it out. It comes with the cylinder. And so now we're going to have to take a gamble on the new ones. If one's bad, the other one's bad. Next we got the floats. New one, old one. It looks like it should be fine. Do we replace it? Why not? Why not? That's a terrible thing to say. How about let's test it. The buoyancy of the original is much higher. The new ones sink very, very easily. I don't think I like that, so I'm not going to use them. Let's make sure the other original works too. Yeah. Next, so yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 of them. The carb kit comes with 2, so which one do you not change, right? 15 watt, 20 watt. This one says 15, this one says 20, this one says 20. So this must be the 220s, I would assume, or are they 215s? I don't know, they're not marked. So I didn't take these out because I don't feel like I need to. I am not going to use the new ones, that's ridiculous. It comes with new emulsifier tubes. That's interesting. Compared to the original, let's see. The metering orifice in the center is not this side nozzle. Note the size. How big is this one compared to that one? This port is chamfered from the factory here, and this aftermarket part is not. And the difference there is turbulent flow, as well as many other factors. Let's check the alignment of the woodruff. Yeah. So it's going to reduce flow, and it's going to induce turbulence, which further reduces flow. And if this is part of the main jet circuit, I would like that one to work right. So I'm definitely not going to use the new ones. Alright. Suppose we can't look at the seat without also looking at the needle. I am not considering to reuse the old needle. I'd like to throw that out there. Here's the old one. They look okay, they test okay. Let's just use the new needles. Yeah, brand new rubber in the tip. But what about the seats? Now, if we look at the seat, oh geez, there's quite a bit of a difference there. The new one is bigger, right? The new one will allow more flow. Is that good? I don't want to do the new one. I think the chance of having a leak at this valve is higher with this design than with this one. Let's just make sure that the needles fit in the old one. It's taller. That's okay. We got 10 diameter, 10 diameter. But I see that the difference is in the height. Right, this one's overall length is 17.2 versus 16.8, but that doesn't matter as much as this difference. That's 6. See that difference there? 5. That's a full millimeter difference in height where it matters. So this is going to be mounted with a screw, remember? And the screw holds it down here. And now this is going to be sticking up an extra full millimeter. Why? Why is it doing this? They got all the other dimensions proper. Why is it off by a full millimeter in this direction? Maybe it's okay. Maybe, I'm sure you could probably run it. Maybe, who knows? Do I want to find out if it doesn't work? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, okay. So the new kit doesn't come with the spring, so we need to use that. The original slide would have the slide itself, and then the spring, which we must reuse. And we have a new cap, which I'm sure we can use, that's fine. And it comes with the new spring and bushing. That's cool, we can use that. And it comes with a new needle and a new clip. Alright, now I gotta throw the flag up. The original needle has this donut thing on there with an alignment pin. The new kit doesn't come with anything like that at all. It's got this and the clip on there, and I mean, I guess if I didn't have needles and I was relying on this kit, I suppose I would be chasing, without that, I would be chasing a lean condition all the time. The needle would be too far down in relation to where it normally would be, right? So it's always blocking more fuel than it should be. So it would be always running lean if I didn't have this in here. It's made to have this, and this doesn't have it. So for that reason, I'm not going to use this needle. But let's go a little bit further. Are there any other differences? First of all, there's all kinds of adjustables. There's 5 areas to put a clip on this new one. The original has only one. You just put the clip where it goes. This one is adjustable so that you can play with the tuning. But let's see what else is different. That is visibly different in length. If you wanted to use this needle, you would have to set your needle clip on rung 4 of 5. At that point, they're going to rest at the same place. Yeah, it's perfect. Bottom surfaces are aligned right there. And that's about as close as you're going to get here. At the length of the things, it's going to be whatever. How different is it? Not different at all. Alright, what else could be different about this needle? Are we done? What else are we looking at here? How's that diameter? Is that the same? Doesn't look like it. The original jet needle. 1.86. 1.55. So that number may seem small, but in this application, that number is gigantic. If you look closer at the taper, you can see how much thicker the original one is. Length might be the same, but the thickness, man, this one would just run so different. This one is designed, engineered for the flow of the Venturi in this carburetor, and to put this in there, I will absolutely not be installing these needles. Maybe I'll use the new filters, huh? Let's see if they fit. I'm gonna use the old seats. Ooh, there you go. So it comes with new float pins, which is pretty cool. I mean, they have a better taper on them than the factories do on both sides. Let's use the new ones. So it comes with only 1 of these per carburetor. Each flow bowl has 2 of them, so we're kind of missing 2. Do I change 2 and not the other 2, and which 2? They all look fine. I'm not going to change any. The pilot jets are at least marked. Most of the time, carb kits like this, they're not marked at all. But they're marked with a 42. And that is not what we have here. We pulled out a 20. And beyond that, look at the size of the holes in the side. They are different. The threading is the same. Their overall length is the same. It kind of looks narrower. It's weird how the new one looks like it's more narrow. It just seems thinner, doesn't it? It's weird. Anyway, it's the wrong size internal. It says 42, but when you look at them, I mean, I might be able to physically put these in there. This would make it run really, really bad. So I definitely will not be using the new pilot jets. So these, completely not the right type at all. This is a 110 of that kind. Here's a 130 of that kind. I don't know if they're just throwing shotgun parts out there, but this is what came out of it. It's a 91.3. And it has to fit into this thing. So it's, you know, it needs to be one kind, 91.3. What other carburetor has a 91.3? I've seen so many different jets, and 91.3 is probably one of the most strange that I've seen yet. And so I will not be using any of these jets. These will go for here. So I already pulled out my own copper washers. And they fit way better. If you don't have copper washers that fit way better like I do, they will work. Let's find out. Yeah, it'll work. You can use them. Oh god. I will not be using these new washers. What is this thing? I don't know what this is doing. And then we have, this is a fancy little screw. How fun. Quite literally no reason at all to use the new one, aside from it's shinier. But they are both brass. They're both the same size. They're both the same thread pitch. The flange on the new one is wider, but they interact with this giant washer anyway. So there's the old washer, which if I have a new, I would rather use a new one. So I will take the washers, but I won't use the new screws. Let's get these screws out of the way. First of all, like, there isn't a screw of this type anywhere on this carburetor normally. So like if I run myself into a pinch real hard and I feel like I need to use one, then otherwise I'm not going to use the new screws. Here we have a strange looking mixture screw. Oh my goodness gracious. The old one is dirty, no question. Hasn't been cleaned yet. Yep. But what do we got? First of all, it's never going to fit. And second, that's a pretty strange nipple there. Well, this new one is unlike anything I've ever seen. I don't know where I could possibly ever use that, but maybe one day it'll go into a box. What else do we have? We got some mixture screw springs. Well, they're quite a bit longer than the original ones. So once you put the spring on there, and then you get your washer, and then you get your little O-ring. The O-ring should be sealing against the outer surface of that shaft here. But that spring prevents this mechanical sealing action to take place, and therefore we put on the original spring. I like how you know when it's assembled properly with the right size O-ring and everything is good when you can hold it and the spring doesn't fall off. It's a neat little complete ready to go assembly. So I will not be using the new mixture screw springs, but in place of these gross little O-rings that came out of it, I will take the new O-ring, which is not really the right size O-ring, to be honest with you. It'll work and it's just gonna be fine. Who cares? I care. It kind of seems ridiculous to worry about such small scale, but it's important that you get all of that corrosion and whatever off of all of the surfaces of all of the pieces that are going to be inside of the carburetor. It spreads like a virus if you don't take it off. It looks just like an O-ring, or the remnants of it. It's really tiny. I'm not sure what's going on. This one still has it in there. It seemed pretty wedged in there, and that's the size of it. You know, then I was wondering, is it just buildup or debris? Like maybe I don't think an O-ring actually fits in there, does it? And it turns out it actually really is an O-ring, and it doesn't like to come out that way. So you can't just leave it. It must work, and it can't work the way that it is. Right? That was supposed to be doing a sealing action. These little bits of something. It's supposed to make the seal between here and there. This is crazy to put an O-ring in here. It's down in the hole. What can you do? Okay, so these old jets, we are going to use the original ones, and they are clear. You look through them, and yeah, it's clear, whatever. But it's kind of not. If we can't look any closer, but like, there's corrosion, and there's buildup, and there's debris, and there's whatever, and it's on a very, very, very small scale. So looking at it, whatever, just know that it's soft brass, and the size of the jet is extremely important, whether it's oblonged or if it's blown out or whatever. It can't be destroyed. So I take steel braided cable, just like dismantle it, and I have just a single one strand of this. And like, I'm not trying to auger the hole out, putting something in there that can actively do a mechanical action to remove what's in there. Just make sure that it's actually clear. When you go to assemble these carburetors, it's best to leave them as disassembled as possible. This diaphragm must be installed on that carburetor before you put them together, or else you can't put it in later. So the very first thing that must happen is the diaphragm gets installed. Check that the diaphragm moves easily up and down when it's aligned. This rubber must be healthy all the way around. There's a hole in this cover, and that hole must be clear for this to work right. That screw should never be all the way in. That's crazy. Before you go putting the carburetors together, make sure you have all of these pieces. These are all critical for the assembly of the two carburetors into themselves. You should have 2 full choke assemblies. Fuel transfer tube with 4 new O-rings. The choke rod, the choke middle arm, 2 choke rod bushings, the sink screw, and the vent tube. As the carburetors are assembled this way, the way this rod is must go in from the outboard carb this way and will engage that choke valve at the end. So the rod has to go through here in order for it to actuate the valve out that way. And if it's actuating it out that way, the spring has to push it back this way. In order to do that, the spring has to be on this side of the carburetor. And if the spring is over here, that means these bushings get installed on this side. And if you look, they don't go in on that side very well at all. They don't fit. But they do fit all the way down on this side, no problem. How does this go on? Who knows, right? It's got a screw that has to go into there, so it's either this way or it's this way. Let's get the rest of our inner parts together. The vent tube. This is the engine side. The spring is much easier to install if you just back this one all the way off. You have to find the little divot in the rod for that screw to go into. The return spring is against a bushing and is secured by the clip. And then on this side, the return spring is pressing the rod against the chokes. And finally, the last one is clocked in with its little E-clip. It goes mixture screw, spring, washer, O-ring. So I'm going to come up to right where it stops, really lightly, extremely light on the pressure. I can't stress that enough. If you break a mixture screw in there from over tightening it, the carburetor is ruined and you got to throw it away. I know this. So you come up to end and then 1 half turn, 2 half turns, 3 half turns, and I'm going to leave it there. 1, 2, 3. This one has its little baby O-ring installed already, and the jet. These have this groove cut into them, and it's meant to align with this little nubbin right there. But you have to drop it in from the top. When it's not lined up right, it sticks up like that. The reason this little cap screw is hollow is because the needle from the slide. If the cap screw doesn't have a recess, that jet needle won't be able to go down all the way. Okay, when you're measuring float level, you want to remove all of the weight of gravity of the floats from depressing the spring, because the floats do have a weight, so if they're heavy, imagine they're pressing down on the spring of the needle, right? But we don't want that. We want to see where it is at rest, and that's with gravity removed, so not with it all the way out, but right there, right? And we're looking at the angle. Where does it stop at? A 90 degree. But it looks like this one is closer to a 90 and this one is a little bit low. It's almost the same, not quite. To change it, you gotta bend the tab down. I want to lift this float up, and to do that I have to press the tab down just by a tiny bit. And then if you want to get nerdy about it, you measure it and you compare it to the factory service manual. Before closing off the flow bowls, I always check visually to make sure that there's no leaks from anywhere, and you can't do that without looking at it. So don't close it up until you have tested the fuel inlet system. If I can fill this standpipe full of fuel and have that fuel level actually sit here like it is, that means the needles are doing their job. But it's deceiving because they have to have actual fuel at them. If there's just air, they'll seal perfectly no matter what. So I'm going to lift one and it's going to intake that fuel. So I'm going to fill this fuel line until I got fuel coming out of this one. And then I'm going to make sure that I got fuel coming out of that one. So leak check number 1 is that there is actual liquid fuel present at both needle valves. So the entire fuel inlet system is essentially pressurized with gravity feed, you know. So it's not much, but it's enough that if there was a leak, it would definitely leak. So step 1 of the test is that the fuel level isn't obviously just dropping really quick, okay? Step 2 of the test is to remove all of this liquid fuel around inside the carburetor and visually see that there is no seepage between the O-ring coming from the seat or the needle from inside the seat. This is holding rock solid. So I'm looking in here for leakage, and I'm looking deep down inside between the needle and the seat and see that it is dry. And then I look around the seat to see that that O-ring is sealing. If those two are good, and after a while this fuel level in the standpipe hasn't dropped, then step 1, step 2 has passed. This one with the idle screw obviously goes to where the idle screw would run into. Now we gotta set the sync and see how far off it is. So we'll start by loosening the idle adjustment because it's jacked all the way in apparently. To start the throttle sync, we start with the primary carburetor, the one where when you hit the throttle it turns the cables and the cables turn a thing, and this thing turns immediately this butterfly. It isn't turning this one, it's turning this one. This is the primary carb because of this, right? Understand that and start with the primary carburetor, and then the adjustment will affect the second. If I bring it up here and look at it, those 3 little dots, okay, they're holes. This top hole right there, I'm gonna adjust the idle. I need to look at this at the most shallow angle possible, right? The more I lift this up, you know, I can't see the hole, but like looking at it too much like this is giving me the wrong perspective. I need to look at it about right there, right? That way when I look at it the same way on this one, I'm looking at the same thing, right? We see how far off those holes are between this one and that one. It's a big difference. It makes a huge difference. So we start here at this angle. I'm going to screw out the idle adjustment. I've got it set to the very moment it touches the very tip top of this hole at the top. Right when it fully closes is the same exact molecular line. I'm trying to get it that close. I don't know how close it actually is, but I'm trying to get it that close. And we can see this one is off by the whole distance of that hole. And when we think that hole is metering air into the airstream, and that's how it's like running at idle, that's going to make a huge difference. This carb to that carb, one cylinder to the other, it makes it run crazy. Watching the butterfly move as you turn the screw is always going to be weird because it's backwards. When I turn the screw in, it lifts the butterfly up, and when I turn it out, it drops the butterfly. And if I push, it can make the adjustment different because I'm pushing on it too hard. Just pushing on the adjustment screw will alter it. So I'm only lightly having the screwdriver engaged into the screw. And I'll turn it a little bit and relax it. And turn it a little bit and relax it. And I'll bring it right up to just barely where it looks like it's perfect. And then compare it again to the other side. Now that I've got these butterflies set, if we were to hook this up to the bike and then hook up the carburetor sync gauges, if that said it was wrong, then I would suspect the gauges are wrong. More than I would think that there's a difference here enough that I should adjust this again. So as far as I'm concerned, the carburetors are synced and I never have to think about it again. We'll be able to tell in the way that the engine revs and decelerates how far off the sync really is. It looks like it's holding. When I try to add more, it stops going in. The float bowl gaskets are holding. The float mechanisms seem to be working. Alright. There's still a question though. How much fuel made it into the carburetor? There's a little bit of difference in the fuel level, but it also didn't all get caught coming out. It's pretty close. I know the floats themselves were right next to each other, but this is proving that both carburetors definitely filled, and they're both filling very close to one another. Two throttle cables, a choke cable. We've got our vacuum system. I replaced this vacuum line from here up. It's a lot easier to hook up the throttle cables before pressing the carburetors into place. That looks like a good throttle free play slack. I always check fuel lines like this. I'm looking for cracking on the walls, and I don't see this one cracking at all. This is still okay. The clamps on the isolators have them too, but the new isolators, the detents weren't so obvious. But there is a little ridge right there, and it's intentional with this clamp. If you've had to replace the clamp or it's just some standard hose clamp, it's not going to look like that. And it's a lining hole, right? So they both do the same thing. Start by putting this hose onto this fitting and then roll the air box onto the Let's go. Yeah, but does it work? So it's popping too much when I decelerate, which means too lean, and we need to make it more rich. And these screws, we're gonna go out to increase fuel. 1/2 turn, 2 half turns, 1 full turn. Now we're at 5 turns out. On the front cylinder, how about the rear? Going out, counterclockwise, left, 1 half turn, 2 half turns. 5 turns out, front, rear. Air filter back on, ship it. Yeah, but does it work? So that felt way stronger. Not way stronger. It made me realize that the first time it felt a little flat or weak, like it was like I was waiting for a little bit more, like where's the rest? By taking those screws out just one more turn really like took away pretty much all of the lean popping. I don't think I heard any. It definitely felt stronger. Ship it.